Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for the last edition of Tiger Talk for the 24-25 school year. This month I'm joined by Krista Biella, Executive Director of the Pride in the Tiger Foundation. Excited to have you here and talk a bit about Pride in the Tiger in a little bit. Like we do every month, before we get to the guest, I want to share just some updates and kind of what's going on in the district with everyone. We had regular board meeting this last week. At the board meeting, the board approved a resolution to run an operating referendum this fall. We've been addressing some financial challenges, not only in Marshall, but in all schools across the state are facing these challenges that we're looking at. Back in 2022, Marshall Public Schools approached the community with a similar operating referendum request. At that time, we had a $1.8 million need. We were still navigating the pandemic, and we received some COVID funding that helped bridge that gap for a few years. Those funds are all completely expired now, and with rising costs and no additional funding in the future, we are concerned about the budget deficit we have in place right now. As Sarah, our Director of Finance, mentioned at the last meeting, we're projecting this ongoing deficit not just next year, but in years beyond as well. That will only increase from one year to the next, and there's only so many reserve funds we can tap into to cover the difference. Most districts in the state of Minnesota are relying on operating referendums to cover the gap and to just meet their basic operating needs, and Marshall is one of the few districts in the state that does not have a current operating referendum in place. The $2 million operating referendum will help us maintain programs and staffing levels that we currently have, allowing us to continue some of the great work that we're doing right now in the school. We aim to keep elementary class sizes small, to continue to offer high-quality individualized instruction and intervention, and to maintain our career and technical opportunities that are currently available to our students. The initiatives that we will continue to do are crucial to our mission to prepare all learners for success. We are very proud of how well prepared our students are when they finish with Marshall Public Schools, and of all the things we have in place right now, we just need continued funding and sustained funding to maintain those efforts. So watch for more information in the coming months on that referendum. You'll hear us talk about it a little bit throughout the summer, but the work really, you'll hear a lot more about it come fall when we come back to school. We encourage anyone who wants to learn more. A website will be launched within the next few days. It'll be tomorrowstigers.org. Encourage you to check that out for some information, or connect with anyone from the school to learn more about it as well. That successful referendum would ensure the continuation of the programs that the community currently values, and a failed referendum would result in larger class sizes, a reduction in student support positions, and fewer career and pathways class opportunities for our students. So I just want to share that as we start. I also want to just highlight a few things. I talk about the great things taking place in Marshall. There are so many great things. The end of the year is the best time. We're celebrating all those things, looking at our data, looking at our goals, looking at how we did throughout the year, and talking about what we're going to do for next year. So going through the buildings, thinking about kind of those things there. First thing I want to talk about is at Parkside Elementary with our youngest readers. We are really thrilled to share the growth that we've seen with our foundational reading skills this year. We've had some changes with the READ Act training the state has required. We've had some changes with how we're assessing students and how we're measuring student growth. Just how we're looking at individually how each child is reading and how they're making progress. This year, our kindergarten students made remarkable progress, reducing the number of students from below benchmark. We had 118 students in the fall who were below benchmark. In the spring, just 28. Impressively, 46% of our kindergartners were well above benchmark, so not only made growth, but were well above. In first grade, the number of students well below was at 115 in the fall. We were down to just 40 kids in the spring that were below benchmark. 75% of the first graders met or exceeded benchmark by the end of the year. Any student who was receiving reading intervention had some particular attention paid to them. Those students, 91%. That's
amazing.
That is amazing. Improved by one or more benchmarks, and not one single student regressed throughout the year. So that's really a testament to the hard work that our teachers are doing, and with the science of reading and that training and all the curriculum pieces that are taking place at our elementary schools. So very proud of that work. At Southview Elementary, every year at the end of the year, Southview recognizes one student has consistently demonstrated kindness throughout their time at Southview. This year, we're excited to announce that Elizabetta Rutleg, who is a quiet leader and has shown kindness throughout the 4 years she was at Southview, 3 years at Southview. Mm-hmm. She is the winner of that award for this year, so congratulations, Elizabetta. Second graders, end of the year, had a trip to Lake Chetek. and the End of Line Museum in Curry. Third graders got to go to the Watertown Zoo, and fourth graders had planned a trip to the Aquatic Center, but like often happens in Minnesota Springs, the weather did not cooperate that day, so they did not get to do that. They did some other things in the classrooms that day, and they did have their carnival the end of the year, like we've done it. I think we've done that forever at Southview West Side. PBIS team at Southview also did a great job organizing end of the year celebration. They had a number of different student-teacher games, some prize drawings, and I really want to call out a thank you to some donations from Sundance Auto Repair, Shine Center, and Thrivent Financial. With their donations, we were able to give away 6 bikes to students. So there's 6 students that got a brand new bike at the end of the school year because they showed Tiger Pride throughout the year. And I shared this at the board meeting too, but you want to see excitement. Give a second or third grader a bike at the end of the year, and that smile goes from ear to ear. So that's always a fun event. At the middle school, proud to highlight several achievements and ongoing initiatives that really impacted the students. We've been implementing BAR at the middle school like we've done at the high school, digging more into data and looking very specifically at not just academics, but things like attendance and behaviors and all those other pieces that are so important in success at school. They call out the reduction in chronic absenteeism. They ended the year with 95 students who classified as chronically absent, which means they missed 10% or more of the school year. That is a significant improvement from the previous school year when we had 150 students fall in that category. They also had a significant decrease in students who had a level 3 or 4 behavior. That's the bigger level behaviors at the school. That was significantly down this year as well. Really reflects the positive impact of the student behavior and supports taking place at that school. In activities, we had an amazing year for activities this year as well. I was counting this morning. We are at 19 different activities participated in a state tournament this year. Some of them still going on. I think clay shooting is next week. Actually, I have a student going up to that. So that is just an amazing number that's unprecedented for us. Other things and activities, we're excited to welcome Ashley Dunn as the new head coach of the girls swim team. She is following Brian Stuckey's resignation. We thank Brian for his dedication and leadership of the past 2 years in that program. Also, congratulations to a couple golfers, to Deacon Wing and to Dayton Webskowski. They qualified for state golf in Jordan and both performed admirably at that tournament as well. Congratulations to BPA computer animation team. That was Matt Bauer, Brendan Tuft, Karsten Springborg, and Joe Nwafor. They reached finals and medaled at the National BPA Conference. That was very exciting to hit that national level there. The state track and field, we had 23 students qualify and participate in that. That was at St. Michael Albertville. Several broke school records this year. In the girls 4x800, Caitlin Liebfried, Caitlin Superior, Peyton Bach, Taylor Bigler left as state champs. And in the boys 4x800, Sam Deitz, Ethan Bly, Michael Paulson, and Josh Liebfried took runners up. So congratulations, guys, on that. Finally, an update that you'll notice this fall or this summer as you're registering for fall events. Our Schools Today has been our online registration system for activities for a number of years. That program has been bought out by a new company called Arbiter, so it means the registration platform will look different this fall. We're putting some final touches on that, and parents will get an email or a communication later this month that will explain kind of what to look for, and then that will be in place for this fall. So just watch for some changes with that. A lot of things taking place.
A lot of great things.
One of the great things that we always celebrate is Pride in the Tiger. The relationship that Pride in the Tiger has with the school district. A lot of things happening there. So thank you for being with me today and just talking a bit about that.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's always fun to visit about what we do to help the school.
Yeah, it's awesome. The community connections that we see in so many different ways are so amazing. I get goosebumps just thinking about it and how well our community supports our schools. So let's start, Krista, just in case one of the viewers is not familiar with Pride in the Tiger. Can you share a little bit about just an overview, Pride in the Tiger Foundation and its mission?
Sure. So the foundation began in 1999, and our mission, in short, is to just provide opportunities for kids through education in Marshall. So we support the public and the private schools in many ways, financially and in hopes of maybe sharing some of the great things that you're doing as well. But I feel like we're a little bit of the connector of maybe the community, alumni, businesses to the schools by raising money and supporting activities in the schools.
Yeah, absolutely. So that leads right into my next question. Can you dig in a little bit, talk about how the foundation supports students and teachers within the schools?
Sure. So we do a couple different things. One of the big things we do is we provide classroom grants. So our Teacher Impact Grant program, teachers or educators in the schools, again, public and private, can apply twice a year, October and March, we offer those applications and we review them. And, it really needs to be a student-focused learning, educational initiative that enhances learning. So we do that. And then in the spring, we offer scholarships to graduating seniors. Those are our two main impact areas in the schools.
Huge impacts. You think about we talk about preparing learners for success, and the scholarship piece alone, let's just talk about that for a second. We're not talking like a couple kids get $100. You're talking huge dollars that are awarded to our students, and we're preparing them for that next step. But the big part of that challenge is being financially ready to go take that on. So this support to get the students out there,
it's such a transitional time, and so this year we offered 134 students, a total of about $243,000 in scholarships, which gives me goosebumps. It's amazing how generous our community is, and that's all donor-driven money. And certainly many of those scholarships have been established for many, many years. We have new ones every year, and so that's really fun. This year we hit a big benchmark. We have 100 individually named scholarships, which is so amazing to me. And not only the dollars, but just how kids are recognized for those scholarships, I think is so meaningful. And when they're selected, our committee at the high school does an amazing job. But we really want that transition from high school to college or even trade school, whatever it might be, beyond high school, that transition to further education is so big in so many ways. And if we can reduce a little bit of the burden through these scholarships, we think it can be really impactful for kids to get started off on the right foot.
Right. I know I'm veering off script a little bit, but you just touched on something I think is really important too. You hear about scholarships. I think about like when I went to school, the 4-year track was the track to go, and that's where you might get a scholarship. But this is so much bigger than that.
Oh, so much bigger. And we've really seen in the last year a big push for donors wanting to support students who are seeking something besides a 4-year. We certainly have many dollars in scholarships available for those 4-year track students, but now we're seeing a lot of students who are pursuing trades or pursuing some sort of certificate program, and we added a bunch of scholarships this year thanks to some generous donors to support those students as well. So I feel like really there's so many different ways students can qualify for a scholarship regardless of what they're planning. They just have to be going on to some further education after high school.
Which we're seeing more and more kids doing alternative routes. That's awesome. So thinking about all the things that Pride in the Tiger does, can you talk about a couple specific things of programs or initiatives that you're most proud of that have an impact on our school community?
Well, certainly the scholarships is a big one, and it's the collective effort of our donors that makes that happen. And I just think that event as well, it's a lot to introduce 134 students for the scholarships they're receiving and keep it rolling. But our presenters do such a nice job of making it authentic and intentional and personal for those students. So I love that event. It's what would be better than hearing 134 students get money, right? That's great. So I love that. I think our partnership with the career and technical education in the schools has been really neat to see that grow. And it's not just at the CTI Center, it's really career and technical education throughout our schools. I think about the PAYS Lab at the middle school and how there's high school students who also get to go and utilize that and are learning direct job skills, which is so meaningful. And then I look at the Tiger Cafe at the high school and the students that are learning those real life customer service skills by taking the orders, making the beverages, delivering them, taking the money. I think that's amazing. And that was started with a LIFT grant, but we've kind of helped them grow really into adding some additional things and the equipment that they needed. And at CTI, they're making the fire rings that they're selling out into the community, which is super neat. And I feel like, us being able to provide that equipment that's needed for those very unique real life classrooms is something that helps us feel like we're making an impact that's maybe beyond. We love buying books and we love buying the hands-on tools, but those bigger impact areas are really, it's just neat to hear the stories that come out of those.
Touches a wider variety of kids and really speaks to that mission of preparing kids for whatever comes next. So that's great. I think about all these things when you look at the classroom, the school will provide what you need to teach the cores, and then Pride in the Tiger can help fill some of those extras that really make school this extra special experience for our kids.
Well, absolutely. I mean, teachers today have such a job trying to differentiate in the classroom. They have to use so many different strategies. You may have 20 to 30 kids in your classroom, but they're all at different learning levels. And certainly the district does a nice job of finding the curriculum, and I think of the science of reading and some of those things. We've helped buy or purchase some of those additional tools so that the teachers who are using that curriculum can differentiate across their classroom and really make it meaningful for all the students so that they can meet them where they're at, which is great.
Exactly. No, that's good. So let's talk, you talked about the community donors a little bit. Let's talk a little bit more about the donors. How do the community donors really contribute to the foundation's work?
Well, we wouldn't exist without our donors and our sponsors. We hold one fundraiser a year. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but really all of our dollars are donor driven and our sponsors. So if you visit the high school and you go in the gym and you see all those advertisements in the gym, they are giving back to our schools through Pride in the Tiger Foundation each year. And so I always say support those that support us. So please visit those businesses and thank them for their support, because they are doing a lot to ensure that these classroom grants continue, and that's where a lot of those dollars go. And then in terms of scholarships, people give for a variety of reasons. We have businesses that want to support maybe students that are pursuing degrees that fit well within their business. There's families that want to memorialize somebody. We have a class reunion this year, and the class of 1995 wanted to give a scholarship. And so it's just different groups of people coming together wanting to support graduates of Marshall High School, because they just take a lot of pride in being part of Marshall.
Being a Tiger.
Yeah.
So you touched on this fundraisers.
Yes.
I know you've got a big one coming up next month. The golf tournament's coming up very soon. So talk a little bit about what should our viewers know about fundraisers.
So July 14th, we will hold our annual golf classic at the Marshall Golf Club. And we are looking for teams. We are looking for sponsors. It's a great day. Usually we have about 100 golfers. We tee off at 12:30 and we're done before 5, and there's lots of fun prizes. We have local businesses that donate some wonderful things for people to win through the variety of games that we offer that day. There's pin prizes, and then we also hold a raffle in conjunction with that, and so you can get raffle tickets from any of our board members, or go on our website, and you can email, social media. There's lots of ways to get the raffle tickets, but all those dollars, again, go to support our Teacher Impact Grant program, and just trying to raise dollars to support the variety of things in our classrooms.
Yeah. Number of things that happen throughout the year, but the golf tournament certainly is the
Yes,
the
that's
biggest
our big one and only fundraiser that we do. So it's important for us.
That is great.
Yeah.
So you talked about the board just a little bit. You do great work, but it's not just you. There's a whole board that kind of helps support that. Talk a little bit about who the board members are and what they do. You don't have to name them. I'm going to put on the spot there, but
I'm super fortunate that I work with 13 dedicated board members who come from a variety of walks of life in terms of their careers, but they're all connected to the schools. Either they've been a student of Marshall schools, they have had students in Marshall schools, or they will have students, or they do. But the one common thing that I see with them, and I'm super proud to say, I've never met a group of people that aren't educators that are so dedicated and so passionate about ensuring that our students in Marshall get the best education possible. And so I'm really lucky to work with them. They all volunteer their time, and they're amazing. And again, you can go to our website, prideinthetiger.org, to learn more about who those individuals are. But they're great, and they work really hard to ensure that we maximize the dollars that we get to support kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I get to sit in some of those board meetings with you, and it's all about what's best for kids and how can we do even more than we're doing. Which
exactly. It's
great
they are
conversations.
Super supportive, and they're great to work with.
Yeah. So a lot of things you do with Pride in the Tiger. What excites you the most about your work with Pride in the Tiger?
Gosh. Oh, having worked in education myself for, over 15 years, I think being able to support educators, people go into education because they love kids and they have a passion for helping kids grow. And I think being able to support the teachers in that, but then also support the students who learn to love learning and are wanting to seek education beyond high school. I mean, it's just so rewarding. And really being able to connect with the business community and the Marshall community in raising awareness about what our schools are doing and how they can have an impact on that as well is just, it's so rewarding. I enjoy it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you touched on the students who like school and some of those things, but not all students like school. So some of the work that Pride in the Tiger does provides some of those opportunities that the kids who maybe don't like school make that connection with school.
Right. 100%. I think a lot of the additional things that we are able to support, I talk about the living classrooms. The kids who maybe struggle sitting in a classroom whether it be, learning through reading or whatever, getting that hands-on experience to be able to learn through that, it can be so meaningful. And,
Absolutely.
Everyone learns differently. Some people are auditory learners. I'm super visual, So being able to have those different tools for teachers and support them in their work is just really meaningful.
Yeah. Can you think of a success story or maybe a memorable moment to highlight when we talk about that?
Oh, there are so many. I'm going to share a cool story.
Yeah.
So we recently, and I'll just say it's my daughter. So she had an interview at a large hospital in Minneapolis, and I'm going to probably butcher some of the names behind this, but she was in her interview, and they asked her why she chose to study clinical laboratory science. And I think most of the time, I think they'll answer, I had an interest in medical, but I didn't want to be a doctor or whatever. And she shared that in high school, she got to, and I have to look at my notes because I'm going to say it wrong, she got to use some equipment that was purchased by the foundation to do a gel electrophoresis experiment
There you go. I don't even know what that
using
is.
a micropipette. I don't know what those things are. But when she shared this with the person interviewing her, her mouth dropped open and she said, wait a minute, you had that equipment at your high school? And she's like, yeah, I had my AP biology teacher had us do this gel electrophoresis project, and I loved it. And so she really encouraged me to go into medical science. And the interviewer just said, there's a lot of colleges that don't have that equipment. And I think that's a perfect example of where we were able to buy a piece of equipment that probably wouldn't have been possible through school budgets, that those students taking those classes got to have some very unique experiences that, benefited them beyond high school. And so, and she got the job, so that was exciting.
Right. And that's one of many stories
Yes.
that
Yes.
talk about that connection
Yes.
and how this can be so important for
Yeah.
some of our kids.
Yeah.
A job that you wouldn't have known to tell her to pursue
No.
and she wouldn't have known existed had
Never.
she not had that class.
Nope,
So,
exactly, never.
yeah.
And the Tiger Cafe and all the career skills those kids are learning. And I think about CTI and all the big equipment that we've bought out there so that kids can learn how to work on cars and do machining and welding and the CNA equipment. I mean, it's just, is so much. And then I think of, the numerous books that continue to be in our libraries available to kids. The Rockwell at Southview. There's just so many things, and they're sustainable, lifelong things that kids are going to be
virtual
impacted
welder
by.
at CTI,
Yes.
where we can weld without
Yes.
needing the extra materials and such.
Exactly.
And kids can really learn what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. We talked early on when we started about the mission statement. You talked about why Pride in the Tiger exists, and mission of Marshall Public Schools is to prepare learners for success after high school. How does the Pride in the Tiger help support that with the school?
I talked about it a little bit earlier, but that teachers need to differentiate in their classroom so much, and they have to use different tools and different strategies. And I take a lot of pride in us being able to support that so that every student, no matter where they're at, what level they're at, or what school they're at in Marshall, that every student has an opportunity to have those tools available to them. And I know school budgets don't cover it all. And so, do we fill in all the gaps? No, I know we don't. Our hope is that we can continue to raise money and continue to get dollars to do more and more each year. But I feel like, with about $100,000 a year that we're able to inject into the schools to buy those types of equipment and tools and books and all the things, is just a way for us to kind of close that gap a little bit, so that all students get those opportunities.
Yep. Krista, what are some of the foundation's goals and plans for the future?
Well, certainly we want to continue our mission, and so how do we the last few years we've really focused on raising awareness of, hey, here's what the foundation is about, here's what we do. Now I think it's continuing to grow, and I look at the growth we've seen with scholarships, and through that awareness, more people are recognizing the impact that we're having, and they want to be a part of that. And so, a lot of it is sharing the stories, and so that's been a big focus this past year. Is through a newsletter and through our website and sharing some of those stories so that people can hear. I think people get connected to that, right? Hearing the different personal stories of how a scholarship may have impacted somebody, or how a teacher receiving a grant, they were able to do something to support a student need. So I think continuing to get the word out, certainly growing our donation base is always helpful. We have our advertising at the high school that has been full for the last few years, and we hope to continue to have that be full. That's a great resource for dollars that we can inject right back into the schools. So, and I think just trying to get more involved in the community. So you'll see us at the Sounds of Summer Parade this year, and we have our Hall of Honor, event coming up this fall. Historically, that's been kind of a formal banquet type event, and maybe wasn't as publicly available to others. And this year we're going to do a little different. We're going to do it in conjunction with Homecoming, which is super
early
exciting.
this year.
Yes, it is early. So that's really exciting. So we're going to recognize some individuals, and we have 3 areas that we recognize: former staff, alumni, and then community members who've had an impact on the schools or who've had an impact on the foundation. And so we're going to recognize those individuals at the homecoming football game, which is, I think, a great way to,
Perfect
tie
time
the
for it.
school and the community and everybody together. So, I just think the more we can let people know what we're doing, hopefully the more people will want to be a part of it.
Right. The website again, if someone wants to see the website.
Prideinthetiger.org.
Perfect.
So much information out there.
Yeah. Last question I have for you. Anything that I haven't asked you about that you think our viewers should know about Pride in the Tiger?
Every little dollar makes a difference. So if you just think, I have maybe some extra donors' choice dollars available, or I really have found a little pot of money that you want to make a difference, it doesn't have to be big dollars. And I think sometimes people think, well, to start a scholarship, I have to have a big pot of money to be able to put towards an endowment. And we will work with you based on what you have available. And so, there's a lot of different ways through our advertising and sponsors and our golf tournament that we raise dollars, but we also just have a lot of community members that are like, hey, I want to give, and they kind of let us figure out where those dollars go. And I want to assure individuals that our board and myself work really hard to ensure that we honor your wishes with those donations, and we make sure it's put to really valuable use in the schools.
Yeah, and I think about CTI as a great example of that. We get a number of smaller donations that we can put together and become something bigger.
Exactly.
And they're all, you're right, they all add up. They're all important.
And I think our working together with the schools so closely really helps ensure that, we know what the top priorities are.
Yep.
So, I guess just if you aren't sure, reach out. We're happy to visit with you about, what you have available and maybe kind of come up with a plan that will work for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much for
thank
joining
you.
me today. Thank you for watching and learning more about Pride in the Tiger. And like I say, that was our last edition for the 24-25 school year. Look forward to the 25-26 school year.